Here we go on a Thursday morning, February 6th, 2025. This is Up North News Radio from Lake Wissota. I'm Pat Greitlow. Nice to have you along here on this Thursday. One more day for me before I take a little midwinter break. Todd Alba will be here tomorrow, and Kristen Lyerly and Greg Bach Monday through Thursday of next week, and then Todd Alba on the following Friday. We've got Joe Zepecki here, so we'll be talking about, usually we just talk about state headlines in the news this week, but since I won't have a show tomorrow and I can't visit with Key of the Keel, we'll talk to Joe about some of the national headlines of the week as well. Then in our second hour, even as right-wing politicians in Madison and Washington are launching new attacks against the transgender community, the Wisconsin Legislature's LGBTQ caucus is growing and attracting more allies. And that will be part of our conversation with two new legislators. We've been talking to one new senator and one new assembly representative every Thursday morning since the session started. And we're going to keep doing that till we interview as many or all of the new members as we can. And there's like more than 24 of them. So coming up, two members of the LGBTQ caucus, State Senator Kristin Dassler-Alfheim, and State Representative Christian Phelps from Eau Claire. So all that and more coming up at 6:06 across the Civic Media Radio Network, and right here where we've got this photo that Rob from Tigerton sent in that we're going to show off later on as well. We'll see you soon.
across Wisconsin from Civic Media. This is Up North News Radio. Now, live from our Lake Wissota studio, here's the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Brightlow.
Well, hey there, Wisconsin. Good morning. It is 6:06 on this Thursday morning, February 6th, 2025. 16 days until the Brewers' first spring training game. The season opener is 7 weeks from today. It's 53 days until the home opener, but as we await the next snowstorm, it's another beautiful morning to have you here up north, live from Lake Wissota, from wherever you're listening across the Civic Media Radio Network. If you're catching us on the app or by podcast or on social media, we also appreciate you tuning in and starting the day here. Last one for me before I take a little midwinter break. Todd Alba will be here this time tomorrow, and then we bring back Bach in the Dock starting Monday. So, since this is the last go-around for me before Sunday's big game, I got a question for you. Super Bowl, who you got? I will ask Joe Zepecki that and many weighty questions as well coming up at 6:30 or so. And then in our second hour, we will be talking to two more new legislators because even as right-wing politicians in Madison and Washington are launching new attacks against the transgender community, the Wisconsin Legislature's LGBTQ caucus is growing, and two of these new legislators are part of that caucus, State Representative Phelps from Eau Claire and State Senator Kristin Dassler-Alfheim, and they will be with us coming up just after 7:30 today, and then it's Thursday, so we should be visiting with one Luke Mathers coming up at about 7:50 before we wrap everything up. Temperatures in many spots around Wisconsin are 20 degrees warmer than yesterday. It's still winter out there. It's 24 here in Chippewa Falls, 20 in Hayward, 21 in Amory, 21 in Wausau. Wisconsin Rapids is at 23, La Crosse 28 right now, Green Bay 25, Madison is at 28 degrees, Waukesha 25, and at Radio Park in Racine, it is 29 degrees, where we find somebody is really ready for spring training and some Brewers baseball. One, Greg Bach. Good morning.
Are you ready for some baseball? I am.
It made you so happy, I could tell as I read off those days till spring training.
Yeah, and then you're like it's only to spring training, but it's winter, so shut up. All right,
something like that. Yes.
I mean, and like, it's just a weird week because like there's no baseball to talk about yet. Really, the Super Bowl is happening, and honestly, you know, at this point, it's a nothing burger in as much as like, oh, great, the popular kids are back. Who cares?
Yeah, right.
And huge Bucks news happening last night. I'm sure we're going to be talking about later today on Matt and Aaron Air. But yeah, it's just like sports is weird this week.
It is. Yeah, Super Bowl week is weird overall, especially if there's not quite so much interest in it. I think the NBA was smart moving their trade deadline to Super Bowl week so that they could get a little attention that week, which I think is fine because the NFL, the NBA used to own Christmas Day until this last time around when the NFL was like, we want this holiday,
Give me your lunch money, kid.
Right? So the NBA is like, fine, we'll put our trade deadline during Super Bowl week. And that's what more sports people are talking about by and large. The Bucks trading away Chris Middleton. Did not see that coming.
I feel like my super duper huge Bucks fans, whatever, you understand.
Yes.
It's one of those things. It's kind of like being a Brewers fan. Yeah. Whenever they trade somebody, you're like, oh, but okay, I guess. I just Chris Middleton was injured most of the season. He didn't start playing until December,
right? And
he wasn't really like putting them up. And I think it was time for the Bucks to make a big move. And I don't know, man. I seriously don't know. Like we're like in year 2 of Dame Lillard and Giannis, and year 2 of Doc Rivers. Well, year 1.5. Yeah. I don't know, man. I really don't. And I'm not a huge basketball fan. This is just what I get from the talk and watching it here on Civic Media, listening to the reports.
Mm-hmm. The Buck. Well, Giannis was out again last night with a sore left leg. The Bucks still beat Charlotte 112-102, snapping a 4-game losing streak. Dame Lillard had 29 points. Bobby Portis, haven't mentioned his name in a while.
Yeah,
scored 23. and the Bucks will next play Friday in Atlanta. And we will definitely get Joe Zepecki's take on the Chris Middleton trade as well. It's like we have like our own little Bucks mafia. It's it's Joe Zepecki, it's Dan Schaefer, it's the handsome and capable Luke Mathers.
God, I kind of want yes, Tony. Who, by the way, I failed to give full shout out to yesterday when we mentioned the 1 million view video of Matt and Aaron Air. That comes of Tony. He puts those videos together, and he makes those things look good.
Tony, Philadelphia Eagles fan, as he tells us right now on YouTube
perfect
this morning. But, he's got a lot of other talents, so good for him.
Could you imagine as Joe Zepecki, Luke Mathers, Dan Schaefer, Bucks podcast?
Then I would actually be interested. I don't follow, NBA stuff regularly, but if it was those three guys talking about it, I would.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would enjoy that very much. Although I'd enjoy it more during the baseball season to hear them just talk about the Brewers, because again, it's not from the standpoint of the sports reporters who are in the locker room every day. This is more, here's the casual fans' take on all this, which might be completely wrong, but it's going to be more honest.
let me get on that because I have the casual fans opinion. Mm-hmm. I can't do the thing of like what you don't understand is that their ERA. I'm like, you're talking mathematics now.
Yeah.
Does he throw the ball well? No, then get rid of him.
There you go. Tony wishes to clarify. Hold on, not an Eagles fan just for this game. Go Pack, go.
Oh,
that makes sense. Yes,
I'm still rooting for Kansas City because I like Travis Kelce.
I like Travis Swift. and look, Patrick Mahomes is he can do no wrong. It seems. I mean, he's good. He's very good. Folks are getting a little tired of him, but. Kind of like Tom Brady, all he does is win.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's the thing. Is like, if the reason why they hate you is because you're really good at your job, then.
Are you getting in on the prop bet at all? The big prop bet of if Kansas City wins, does Travis Kelce propose to Taylor Swift in the postgame?
I really hope not, because that's not why you should do it.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah, that's not why you should do it.
The asking somebody to marry you shouldn't depend on the outcome of a sports match.
Yeah.
We lost, so I'm not proposing to you.
How many songs will Taylor Swift write if that happens and they break up? I mean, it's gonna be like It's gonna be like a trilogy of albums.
Oh, you thought Tortured Poets was something the tortured Travis. Travis did get in a good dig at his brother, who retired last year after a long Hall of Fame career with the Eagles. When they asked him about the Eagles, and he said something like, "Well, I like our odds now. The Eagles got rid of that fat and slow center that they have, or short and slow center that they have."
Did they ever play each other in the Super Bowl?
Yeah, they did a couple of years back. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
All right.
And that's actually how I got to know them and Mama Kelsey and all that. And I thought that even if Taylor Swift had never come into the equation, it was kind of like J.J. Watt and his family, and then TJ and everybody. And you love to see that, because there's enough other idiots in sports and stage moms and all kinds of others. So when you see families like that, it's just refreshing, And I want to hate the Kelsey brothers because they're too good, they're too perfect, but they're funny. And Jason Kelsey's wife, and I'm blanking on her name, but she's got
is her name Kelsey?
She's got the number one podcast right now. And again, I didn't know that till a month or two ago. And I'll see clips on YouTube or TikTok. She's funny. She's really good. She's like the perfect football player's wife in that she takes no grief at all and dishes it right back out. And it's awesome. So
her name is Kylie Kelsey.
Kylie,
wow, that is a name. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing is I just I made the conscious choice the first time I came to know of Jason Kelsey was of Travis Kelsey was because of SNL. I didn't know about his brother. I didn't really know anything about his football career. Mm-hmm. This is way pre Taylor Swift, and I was just like, he's funny. And for me, SNL is the testing ground for non-performers who are hosting. I have thoughts on Eli on Peyton Manning on his college career and certain controversies, but he is very funny.
Oh my God, that video of him throwing the football at the kid's head is just so good.
It's stuck. But yeah, I mean, I think it's great. I think that's a great role model for especially young men.
Mm-hmm.
Those two guys are great role models for young men.
Yes, they are. And then we haven't even gotten into the commercials. And you know why? Because it's almost like, I'm not going to say the commercials aren't going to be good or funny, but the whole fascination with them, I think, has peaked because now we see too many of them before the game. So there's no drama. And, they play relentlessly and they miss the mark a little too often. Whereas in those early days, the Bud Light ones, all of them, and E-Trade for the E-Trade baby. Mm-hmm. I mean, we still quote the E-Trade baby. There's one where he goes, "You want to see my shocked face?" What? It's just such a perfect commercial. So I'll be on a beach someplace. I'll probably miss it, but I'll be sure to ask you about it when all is said and done because you'll be watching.
I'm probably gonna watch. I'm gonna see if anyone's. I'd rather go to someone else's house and have if there's a party.
Yes,
I don't want to. I have no interest in sitting on my couch and watching.
It's not about the football. No, it's a holiday. It's America's get together day.
Yeah,
it's America's get together with your friends day and bring taco dip or buffalo chicken dip or something else to pass.
Something
it's
else
America's potluck.
Yeah. Oh, Super Bowl, America's potluck.
Ooh,
I love that.
Look what we've invented. Mr. Bach, by the way, is looking, here's our word of the week, resplendent in his Civic Media t-shirt. I've got the quarter zip on, but underneath here is a Civic Media shirt, the one with the map and all the circles on the Wisconsin map showing all the radio stations around Wisconsin. And you can get a look at these, get a gander at them over at civicmedia.us. Find out about stations all around the network, shows, merch, newsletters, and more. Head over to civicmedia.us. And then, of course, there's the Up North News daily newsletter, and it's got a Super Bowl theme in it today. Christina Laurie put it together. A bit about Packers Super Bowl history is in there. And then there's also a news article about people using TikTok videos to get advice on birth control. And let me just say that it's long before TikTok, it was bad advice about family planning that allows OBGYNs to have nice houses. So TikTok is good for a lot of things, not medical advice. We'll do more after this on Up North News Radio, live from Lake Wissota on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Where are we at, Pat?
The Civic Media Radio, the Chippewa Falls Radio Network.
I doubt she's listening or watching right now, so I'm just going to say, because you're going on vacation and we haven't done it yet this year, and I have it loaded, give Brittany a Wichita lineman.
Ooh.
Sing it. How about this? We sing it to her, because saying that sounds awful. We can sing that to her.
I think that would work. Yes.
Okay. If you can bring it up. If not, no worries.
Dr. Lyerly, a fan of that trend? No, it's not that we're fans of that trend. It's what was, we used to have a nickname for the rhythm method. It was called pregnancy. So we're just big fans of medical advice.
People I heard it on TikTok. That's great.
That's great. Hey, I've been going back and forth with I've been going back with a friend over TikTok videos about retirement, because that's the age we're in, is whether you take your Social Security at 62 and a half, or if you wait to take it because you get the bigger payments. And it's like we're taking TikTok videos and discussing who's right about this.
But honestly, I think it's okay to watch a TikTok video where there's advice. Then you take that advice to an expert and say, "Hey, TikTok is essentially the WebMD of everything." It's like, I know you're gonna hate that I said this. I saw this on TikTok. Tell me your thoughts.
Oh, yeah. I mean, again, Sherry, Kristin, any doc will tell you, the words. It used to be that phrase, I'm from the government, I'm here to help. For them, it's the phrase, I saw this on the internet. Get
out. Oh, wait. Oh, no. I saw, wait, where is it? There. Say it.
I saw that. I saw this thing on the internet. There it is. All right. 10 little seconds here. Just to make clear, I'm not playing Bob Marley just because I'm island bound. It happens to be the anniversary of his birth, and we will talk more about that in today's history lesson coming up in a half hour. Although, listen, if it wasn't his birthday, I think I'd still be playing Bob Marley.
Yeah, I was going to say.
It just makes you feel good. Did I mention there's a snowstorm coming?
Why did I pick last week?
Meanwhile, back over, we were talking about civicmedia.us, where you find news as well and opinion pieces from people like Dan Schaefer, the political editor of Civic Media. And he, of course, he has his own news site and column called The Recombobulation Area. And you should be subscribing to that, because we do a lot of state political news here, but Dan really pulls the curtain back and has much more about, why things happen the way that they do. And so I mentioned it yesterday, but I want to talk a bit more about Dan's latest column called Donald Trump and the Rise of the Pro Wrestling Republicans. And you're saying, well, Pat, why don't you just have Dan on to talk about it? Dan's on other shows. Because we love Dan, and Dan has young children. So we know that a 6:30 time slot doesn't necessarily work for him. So let me tell you about it, and then I'm sure you can hear Dan throughout some of the other shows about his latest column. Dan writes, part of me wonders if by focusing so intensely on what Democrats might have done wrong, we're missing what might be the larger story of the 2024 election, what Trump and the Republican Party did right. Because Schaefer notes that, Trump in many ways has been just as abhorrent and despicable and genuinely dangerous as anything he's done or said. But in a fairly revealing interview with Politico, Trump's campaign team talked about what went into the success of the campaign. And what stood out is how they discussed Trump as what the reporter at Politico characterized as a cultural phenomenon. The MMA fights, Joe Rogan, working at the McDonald's drive-thru, things like that. Because you do have your traditional Republicans. You think of the country club set, George W. Bush, Mitt Romney. Then you have the MAGA group, and Dan refers to them as pro-wrestling Republicans, who have truly transformed the party and made it a formidable coalition for Democrats to contend with going forward. Trump opted to prioritize the wrestling ring over the fairway and is reaping the rewards of electoral success in doing so. Now, keep in mind that when Trump governs, it's largely as a country club Republican, tax cuts for the wealthy and stacking the judiciary with Federalist Society freaks, as Dan writes. Just a more vicious, insulting, and chaotic version. Dan goes on to say, it's always been fairly easy for Democrats to run against country club Republicans. Dems always figured that there were many non-voters who would turn out to keep a guy like Donald Trump out of office. But what we all learned, and I will add parenthetically what I said throughout the campaign, is that there is a hidden reservoir of voters who only didn't vote because there had been nobody like Donald Trump before, with that level of bigotry in some cases, with that level of hatred toward your own government in other cases, a different set of priorities altogether. And a lot of folks turned out to that because they saw the pro wrestling Republicans putting on a show like at the Republican convention in Milwaukee. You had Hulk Hogan ripping off his shirt. Dana White introduced Trump for the convention speech. Kid Rock performed. And some of us laughed at it, and they laughed all the way to the voting booth. Dan goes on to say, we're entering an era now where attention is among the most valuable commodities in the world. The attention economy is everything. And if there's anything that Donald Trump and the pro wrestling Republicans know to do, it's to get people's attention. It's certainly not governing. It's certainly not doing what's best for the American people. But if it gets you to stop scrolling and watch, then it works. So Dan concludes, so maybe it's time to grab a proverbial steel chair and start to show some fight. The fate of the nation just might depend on it. He really gets to what Courier Newsroom and Up North News is all about as well. It's about, and he mentioned it in here, stopping the scroll. Because we're all doing that all day, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, you name it. We're scrolling, and we're scrolling until something interesting catches our eye. No different than if you were flipping channels. Now, we don't flip channels as much as we used to because now there's, so many of them. You just go to the guide and you figure out what it is that you want to watch. But it wasn't that long ago. People would just flip through all of them, looking for the one thing that they want to see. Well, now we have that to an infinite effect through all these social media platforms. And so what we do at Courier Newsroom and Up North News is we say, look, when we do talk about political news or anything serious, it's got to be in a way that catches your eye. It cannot cross the line into clickbait. And there's no hard and fast rule as to what is clickbait, but you'd know it when you see it, when it's just, when the teasing is gratuitous, it's misleading. But you want to, in a fact-based way, let people know, stop your scrolling. This is an important post. Read it. That's what Dan means in part by the attention economy. All kinds of people paid attention to Donald Trump. And guess what? We're all still paying attention to Donald Trump. It's just that at Up North News and at Civic Media and elsewhere, we're saying we're paying attention to tell you that there are things that he's doing that are solely to grab attention while he's doing other things that, again, coming back to the country club Republicans, are just all about tax cuts for the very rich, getting you to think that the tax cuts are going to impact you as well when they're really not do anything to improve your health care. If anything, take it away, make your public school less able to meet testing standards in the future, and so on. So don't be distracted by the shiny object stuff. But Trump knows how to get attention, and we all have to learn how to manage that. And it gets to be a little much, I'll admit. We've got to pay attention to the news without being obsessed about the news. We've got to choose in our radio shows folks that will take a little bit of time to talk about the serious stuff and take a little time to talk about Chris Middleton being traded. And that doesn't mean the political news doesn't matter. It just means we cannot be all work and no play. We do so at our own peril. We will talk about a little bit of both with Joe Zepecki. That's coming up. And then again, we've got two new state legislators coming up in our next hour, State Senator Kristin Dassler-Alfheim and Representative Christian Phelps. This is Up North News Radio, live from Chippewa Falls on the Civic Media Radio Network. I'm Pat Kreitlow, and Joe Zepecki is next.
Buffalo soldier.
Well, on this final show before my vacation, which means we will not be talking to Kia Vakil tomorrow from Courier Newsroom. So instead, Joe Zepecki is going to do double duty for us. We're going to talk about some of the big news in the state and some of the big national headlines. Mr. Zepecki, how are you?
I'm okay. I'm a little jealous that I don't get to go. You sure you're coming back?
No, I'm not sure at all. Let's just keep that in mind. Let's start with the big story in Wisconsin right now. What are we supposed to make of what is, to me, the surprising trade of Chris Middleton leaving the Bucks for the Washington Wizards?
All of these trades feel a little less surprising in light of the Luka for AD swap. I gotta start there.
That would be for us non-basketball. That'd be the LA Lakers and Dallas had a surprise blockbuster trade.
The craziest, most surprising trade of all time, literally in NBA history.
Okay.
And here's my unpopular take. I love Chris Middleton. I love what he did for this franchise. But if I could get in my time machine, among the things that I would change is I would have traded him when we traded Jrue Holiday away. Sure. We wish Chris well.
Yes, we do. And again, he was a real fan favorite, but life goes on. Exactly. Yeah. Let's start with something that we can talk about from both a national and a state perspective. And that, of course, would be Elon Musk and the whole Doge farce that is engaged in what Senator Tammy Baldwin is calling the biggest data hack in the world. Just starting with that alone, as we've mentioned multiple times, but let me say it again. The other things are shiny objects, Greenland, Panama, Gaza, all the other crazy stuff. Pay attention to what matters. How far off is Senator Baldwin thinking this might be one of the biggest data hacks ever?
She's spot on. If one of our adversaries had done this, had figured out how to download the information that they're doing, how to manipulate the source code, how to get identifiable information about every American, we would call it the greatest cyber espionage coup in history, and we would be to battle stations if this was China. It's not China, but it is an unelected foreigner who was who we just gave away the store to. Now, I'm old enough to remember when people on the right were outraged that Barack Obama won a Democratic election because they thought he was a foreigner and he had access to this stuff. And so for that crowd to say the richest man in the world, one of the largest government contractors in the world, who was never elected to anything, who is working, I'm air quoting here, in an extra legal, not authorized by Congress organization and has no business messing around in Treasury Department records. This is insane. And the part that you can be for disruption of government. You can say we spend too much on foreign aid and we need to look at every nickel of it. There is a way to do that in this country as laid out in our Constitution. When the Congress says you're going to spend money on this, that's the law. And this is just one example of the ways in which the Trump administration, in less than 3 weeks, is completely undoing the constitutional order. And I would just remind folks that when you are acting outside of the law, in contravention of the law, if you disregard laws that you think don't apply to you, that is where law ends and tyranny begins. The American people did not vote for a tyrant, and they sure as hell didn't vote for Elon Musk, a foreigner, to be rooting around in our most sensitive information as Americans. It's outrageous, and good for Tammy Baldwin for saying so and for trying to do something about it. But what we need are Republicans to stand up and take back their constitutional power. I got to tell you, man, I've never seen behavior like this out of politicians, where Republicans have control of Congress. Tomorrow, if they wanted to pass a bill eliminating USAID or eliminating programs they don't care about, they could do it. Bring it to the floor, vote on it, send it to Trump's desk. He'll sign it, but they're not doing that. Instead, they're violating the law at every turn. And I mean, it's astonishing. The only thing it's like a conference of cucks. They just like to watch Trump do this even though they actually have a role to play here as laid out in the Constitution.
I'm wondering, when do we see the prosecution of Hillary Clinton over her emails?
Well, now that Pam Bondi is in, stay tuned.
Anything's possible here. I mean, you also had, from the standpoint of data that shouldn't be released, an intentional leak of CIA employee names.
The CIA is saying that this was in response to one of the ridiculous executive orders from last week, where they sent the name of every single person who's been hired by the CIA over the last 2 years, and they sent it in an unclassified email to the White House. That is an enormous counterintelligence risk. It is among the ways that America is less safe today because Donald Trump and his band of merry misfits are running roughshod over the Constitution. And let me give you one more. Donald Trump is making enemies of our friends and being soft on our actual adversaries on the global stage. When people say USAID, oh, this is all this foreign aid. First of all, 0.7% of the US budget goes to foreign aid. Secondly, we are in a global competition, a race against China for the future. They have what they call their Belt and Road Initiative, which is where they are investing in foreign aid to other countries around the world, particularly in Africa and Latin America, two continents of geostrategic importance in the 21st century. And what Donald Trump and Elon Musk are doing, again, in contravention of the law, illegally, is saying, we don't care. America can retreat from the world. And I am here to tell you and bang on the table if I have to, America alone is less safe. You cannot piss off your friends at every turn and expect them to remain your allies. This is an incredibly dangerous time. And the notion that this guy is viewed by anyone as a tough guy is belied by what is actually happening in front of our faces.
The other thing that Trump wanted to do, of course, back last weekend was say, well, here come the tariffs on Canada and Mexico. And then shortly afterwards, he's claiming some kind of victory that Canada and Mexico, bowed to his pressure and the tariffs are off.
Oh, I love this one. I love this one.
No, that's not how this worked at all, Joe.
You know what we got? You know what the United States got?
What?
We got them to do things that they had already announced they were doing.
What a negotiator.
But I mean, this is the art of the deal. Yeah. That Donald Trump says, hey, Canada, we're going to slap a 25% tariff on everything. And Justin Trudeau says, how about we spend some money on border security? And he goes, oh, great deal. He announced that Trudeau announced in December that he was going to be doing this. Yeah. He literally created a dip in the Dow and global uncertainty and poked at one of our main trading partners and allies in the eye for no reason, to get nothing. That is not master negotiating. That is nonsense for nonsense sake.
Meanwhile, out in Madison, the Republican lawmakers there released legislation this week that would require law enforcement officials to determine the citizenship status of someone they arrest if they have reasonable suspicion the suspect isn't in the country legally.
What are you supposed to base that suspicion on?
Well, that was going to be my question to you. What would they base a reasonable suspicion that someone's not in the country legally?
Yeah, so we're codifying racism.
Yes, that's what we're doing.
Yeah. Listen, this will not get signed into law by Tony Evers. I haven't heard him say anything, but I know enough about Tony Evers to know this is a non-starter. If you break the law, whatever you look like, however much education you have, wherever you come from, if you break the law in the state of Wisconsin, you should be held accountable. And I trust that law enforcement will do that. We do not need to codify racism and racial profiling. That is not a thing here in Wisconsin that we need to keep our streets safe because, oh, by the way, crime is down in Wisconsin.
Then there's this bill that would say only the U.S. flag, the state flag, and the POW MIA flag and the flags for the armed forces can be flown or displayed at state or local government buildings. The memo accompanying the bill by legislative Republicans says, Hundreds of national and global holidays have been established over the years to raise awareness and support for various causes, making it virtually impossible to give each one equal recognition. Rather than creating unnecessary controversy, who's creating
That
unnecessary controversy? Yeah. We should remain neutral when it comes to recognizing various causes. Well, except, of course, for the POW MIA flag and the military. But again,
I love this carve out is coming from the same folks who have no problem with Donald Trump's ridiculousness in Washington, which is about to impact VA services. You want to go to the VA right now? You got to wait. They're about to make that problem even worse. So don't tell me that you care about veterans when you are prepared to sacrifice veterans' physical and mental health to the altar of whatever the hell Elon Musk is up to. I'm sick of it. And I bet if you asked 100 veterans, 99 of them would tell you the VA needs more support so that we can honor those who served us, and that they could give a rip about a flag if the cost of it is having to wait another 2 months to get an appointment at the VA. This is absurd. And I can't help but notice, did they say anything in there about Supreme Court justices' wives hanging American flags upside down in contravention of flag code?
No, Senator Wimberger's office is sponsoring it, and I do not see anything in the bill memo about that. No, I don't. There's
Weird.
also a hard-hitting bill from Republicans this week to require cursive writing. Okay, why? Again, shiny objects. I get shiny objects versus substance.
Yeah, I got to tell you, this one I can't get my dander up about. It seems like this is not the role of the legislature when we've got actual other real problems to solve.
Well, that gets us into our final topic then, and that's Governor Evers releasing some new proposed rules and funding that he's going to propose in the budget to get rid of PFAS. And as I explained yesterday on the show, the heart of the matter is that Wisconsin Manufacturers and Commerce is contending, and Republicans, that the DNR, is going to have to write a rule for like every single chemical, when the way it's always been is the legislature in law defines what is hazardous, and then we trust the DNR to say, yep, that's hazardous. Let's do something about it. But micromanaging, much like cursive writing in the classroom, this micromanaging that we keep getting is, it's intentionally trying to throw sand in the gears of the government that would keep our drinking water safe.
I think it's worse than that. I think it's selling out government to the highest bidder. They work for big business, and it's going to cost big business big money to pay for the ways that they have polluted the water that we drink. And all of this ridiculousness about populism and the party of the people, give me a break. What is happening in Washington, what this Republican Party in Wisconsin is demonstrating, is that it's all just smoke and mirrors. They want you to believe that they have your back, but they are working for big business and corporations and CEOs who have never been doing better. That is the economic reality of our time. They are doing their bidding, and they are hoping you won't notice that they can do enough, dancing around, distracting you, and that you won't care, that you won't notice that they don't give a rip about you or the water your kids drink, because they have a job to do, and it is what the corporations who fund their campaigns is telling them to do.
Let's end on a sports note here. Actually, two of them. First off, Super Bowl. What do you got?
I got a big bag of nacho cheese Doritos I'm hoping to get through. I have a hard time getting up for this one. I will say, Zach Braun, former Badger linebacker, always been a big fan. Love the way he plays. It'd be nice to see him get a ring. I'm just hoping for a good game and really funny commercials.
Which team does he play for?
He's on the Eagles. Fly, birds, fly.
There you go. One for the Eagles. And the nice thing for me is that when you and I talk again 2 weeks from now, Super Bowl will be past us, and we'll get to start talking about spring training.
Now we're talking. How many days till pitchers and catchers report?
It's not few enough. Let's just get this done, and let's start talking about this in 2 weeks. Joe Zepecki,
have a great trip.
Thank you so much. We'll do today's history lesson right after this break. This is Up North News Radio. I'm Pat Kreitlow.
You better come on home, baby. I'm about to go crazy. You never close your eyes anymore when I kiss your lips. And there's no tenderness like before in your fingertips.
We should have practiced our Righteous Brothers. We could have done that. I'd be the Bobby Hatfield, right?
Yeah, of course.
You'd be the Bill Medley.
But baby!
Yep, definitely. If you can do Michael McDonald, you can do Bill Medley.
You lost in love.
And then, of course, there was a follow-up, My Heart and My Soul Inspiration. The exact same song, basically, just threw different lyrics in there.
Yeah.
But anyway, You've Lost That Love and Feeling was the number one song this day in 1965. It was written by Barry Mann and Cynthia Weil and produced by Phil Spector.
Wow.
It's tough to get that name out anymore after where his life went later on. Anyway, number one song this day in 1965. The American Legion, Happy Birthday to You. The American Legion was founded on this day in 1919. This is the anniversary of the birth of Bob Marley.
Singing, don't worry about a thing. Every little thing gonna be all right.
Lost way too soon at the age of 36 back in 1981. On this day in 1952, Britain's King George VI passed away. So Princess Elizabeth, while on a tour of Kenya, became Queen Elizabeth II, Queen of the United Kingdom and her other realms and territories as head of the Commonwealth. So, kind of got that Game of Thrones, first of her name.
Yeah.
Let's see. Happy birthday to, one of those teenage heartthrob singers, Fabian. Fabian Forte is 81 today.
Turn me loose, I say.
We need a bunch of Bobby Soxers just screaming in the aisles like, ah.
He's still alive?
Yes, he is.
Wow.
Yep. And he's one of those who wrote books about, just what a meat grinder it was and, was it really worth it for the fame and everything. Bob La Follette Jr. was born this day in 1895, passed away in 1953. Former President Ronald Reagan was born on this date in 1911. The late Natalie Cole was born this day in 1950.
I've got love on my mind.
Just love her voice.
Yep.
I've got
She
love.
passed away in 2015 at the age of 65, although she was the first to say that even though she had been clean and sober for 25 years, she died of the drug use from years earlier, caused liver failure. Yep. Tom Brokaw is 85 years old today. How's your Tom Brokaw impression?
Not very good. It sounds like a really bad Ted Koppel. Like just,
Here's
terrible.
I'm always, again, much like Keith Richards, there's always some people I'm surprised going, oh, you made it this far. Axl Rose turns 63 today.
I have no Axl Rose impression.
Oh, I was going to say, here it goes.
It
No,
hurts.
that would hurt. On this day,
He doesn't even have an Axl Rose impression anymore.
sounds like Iago from Aladdin. Little Gilbert Gottfried doing an Axl Rose impression.
Take me down to the Paradise City.
On this day in 1988, Michael Jordan made a slam dunk, which is nothing new, but it was during during the free throw contest, yeah. And it was a signature slam dunk. The way that he kind of I don't want to say spread his legs, but just leaped more than he normally would. And it was that dunk this day in 1988 that inspired the Air Jordan Jumpman logo. Happy birthday to Rick Astley. The singer, Rick Astley is 59 years old today.
This whole show has been a Rickroll.
Yep. You've been Rickrolled. This is where we have to give the obligatory mention of nobody guessed that he was like a teenager when this song came out.
also is another one of those voices where you just tweak it a little bit. Her.
There's your duet, Rick Astley and Michael McDonald.
But you'll never be able to tell which one is which.
Yeah, right. Okay, here's the part where Greg always laughs at me. There's a singer out there named for $50, and he dropped his. He never knows if I'm coming out with
$50 Curtis
with 50 Cent or 50 or whatever. He dropped his debut album, Get Rich or Die Tryin', which included 2 #1 hits, 21 Questions, and this.
Go. No, seriously, go, please. We're closing.
Go. Yeah. It took us a lot of work to clean this up. So, on the calendar today, it is National Frozen Yogurt Day, and it is National Chopsticks Day. I cannot recommend eating frozen yogurt with your chopsticks, but if that's your style, you do you, boo boo. This is Pay a Compliment Day. You're looking very capable and handsome today.
Oh, thanks, Pat. You're smart.
Meanwhile, Luke back there goes, "Hey, wait, that's my dig. That's my deal.
That's my dream. That's my brand."
Yeah, and this is National Day of Optimism, or Optimist Day, which is not the same as the Optimist clubs out there or Optimus Prime. It's a day about optimism and looking on the bright side of things.
You know, I never thought of it that way. The idea that he's Optimus Prime. He's the most positive. He is the most positive of the Transformers. We're going to win this one. Why? Because I have a feeling.
Let's see. Well, more from Robin Tigerton, but he does note here, he just put on YouTube, my grandpa Paul Lehman was one of the founding members of the Tigerton American Legion as a World War II veteran. Well,
nice.
That's great. And Tony writing in from Ashland, you can find me in the club.
Which club
in Ashland, yeah, would be playing Mr. Curtis there. We have interviews with two more new legislators, Kristin Alfheim, state senator, Christian Phelps, new state representative, in the second hour of Up North News Radio, just ahead.
Oh, to 50 Cent.
I just feel like I could just Angela Lang and others are listening, just going, damn it,
Why?
Pat. Just
why, Pat?
I know. I don't know. I need lessons. I need lessons. It's like voice lessons.
You said it correct. It's as far as I am aware, it's 50 Cent.
Yes. But when I say that, you laugh, and when I say 50 Cent,
because
you laugh.
it's the ramp up. You prepare everyone for you to say the name.
It's the I can't get this right. There's just no way for me to get this right.
I also like
just like saying the song. I can't say in the club. There's no way it comes out of my mouth and this face where it sounds natural. You know?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's what I also like. Old $50. That's funny to me.
Exactly.
Curtis $50 Jackson sounds like a blues musician from the 20s.
I was going to say we're a Confederate general. I don't think he'd like that characterization. Though. Yeesh, no.
Secret show. Yeah. All right. See you in a bit.
Secret show needs more coffee.
Yeah.
Elizabeth, did we actually say yes to the swap out?
I don't know. I was just checking.
Oh, okay.
I was up
What did
there. I was like, I'm not sure if we confirmed.
what did you have? Did you send
Just-
audio? You sent audio, didn't you?
Yeah,
What was it?
from the Medicaid.
Oh, the
Advocates.
Protect Our Care thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Hang on a second.
we can
here.
skip it though.
Elizabeth, are you sick too? Is everyone sick? Is everyone sick? You sound like you have sniffles.
No, I think it's just really dry in here.
Okay.
Like, I hope not.
Let's see here. Yeah, let's let it go. That way you don't have to force it. I don't have to force it, and you can get a little break.
Sounds good.
Thank you for getting ready. Appreciate it. Thanks.
No problem.
All right, we'll just work. We'll just get you on twice after the budget address. That's all. It's going to be. Oh wait, you're on vacation that week, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Oh,
Everybody's taking vacation. How dare you all? God.
you just got back from yours.
That's not what I'm talking about. We're not talking about that, Pat. We're not talking about that, Pat.
Oh, okay. Sorry. All right. Sorry, Elizabeth, for the false alarm.
all
That's
right.
my bad. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye. Hi, Brittany.
Good morning.
Good morning, Brittany Malo.
Hey, hey.
Are you down for Matt and Aaron Air today, as usual?
Yep, of course.
Great. Can we talk about the fact that the streets were a freezy, icy hellscape last night? My
Oh
goodness.
gosh, what time did it start? Like 9?
Yeah, all I know, I was. Well, we can talk about it later because we're about to go on the air. Ah!
Woo!
Secret show.
All across Wisconsin from Civic Media, this is Up North News Radio. Now, live from our Lake Wissota studio, here's the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Brightlow.
Hey, good morning. Welcome back to Up North News Radio for this Thursday, February 6th, 2025. It is 7:06 in the morning. Nice to have you along here from the ice planet Hoth by way of Chippewa Falls, where how would you best describe the roads on your part of the state there, Greg Bach?
An icy hellscape.
Yeah, that sounds about right. It's that way in a lot of places, and now it's going to get really windy, and then it's going to get really snowy and blowy, and that brings in somebody who is here. Where's Rob's comment here? Our award-winning snow queen, Rob from Tigerton writes, "I bet she will be out Saturday making snow angels."
Yes.
Guilty?
DJ
Yeah.
Flip Mix.
And by the way, Rob, thank you again. I'm popping up on social media here. This is a sunrise photo that he sent in from the nearby town of Germania. So
That is
thank
beautiful.
you very much for that. He also says, "Good morning. It is cloudy and 20 degrees. We had a dusting of snow and a thin layer of ice. County crews are out salting and sanding the roads."
Yeah.
He was doing the same. So yeah, it's
Folks, let me tell you something. Last night, I was in Milwaukee and I live in Kenosha. I drove home. It took an hour and 15 minutes and I never got above 35 miles an hour.
ouch.
I've not seen that many spinouts and crashes since a snowstorm back in 2000, I think, for 13 or 14.
Wow.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
Well,
yes.
Well, now let's talk about Saturday. Or actually, before we get there, we got the wind advisory first.
Yes, we do. So we've gotten through the ice. A lot of the roads are definitely improving. Expect up north. They're still completely covered right now, but we are looking at some sunshine definitely moving in by late morning, continuing throughout the afternoon for most of the state. But those winds are going to start to get extremely strong. We're talking sustained. That's a constant wind at about 20 to 30 miles per hour, where the gusts are going to be into the 40 mile per hour range. And to be honest, in some places, they could hit 50 mile per hour gusts. So this could cause some power outages. This is also going to blow and drift that snow that did fall into northern areas. So that's going to be a problem onto those roads all throughout the day. And of course, that's going to take us down from feeling in the 20s, all the way down to feeling sub-zero. And then our actual temperatures tonight fall sub-zero, especially far up north. We crash cold. Tomorrow we'll stay in the upper teens to mid-20s with a lot of sunshine, but then Saturday's storm moves in. I mean, we've already got winter storm watches out, especially in towards the Eau Claire area. We're looking at a good 4 to 7 inches widespread for the Northwoods, pretty much north of Highway 29. Now, this system could drag that high amount a little bit further south. Fox Valley, you're still in the sights for it, and even places as far south as Wisconsin Dells. So a big chunk of the state going to be hit very, very hard. And this is an all-day event on Saturday. This is going to start before you probably even wake up. And then it's going to continue until the sun sets, and then it'll start to wind down and leave. Now, the good thing is it's all snow. No ice should be expected with this, but a lot of snow headed our way.
Did I mention it's only 16 days until the Brewers' first spring training game, and that the season opener is 7 weeks from today?
Oh, you're making us feel better.
I got to do it. That's all I can offer you here. Is
That's true. That's true. We get
53 days until the home opener. So we have something to look forward to. Brittany, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Talk to you later.
Bye.
It's 7:10 right now, and just a little bit of sports to share with you. In their first game since trading away longtime guard Chris Middleton, the Milwaukee Bucks beat Charlotte on the road 112-102, snapping a 4-game losing streak. Damian Lillard had 29 points, Bobby Portis 23. Giannis Antetokounmpo sat out with a sore left leg. The Bucks will play in Atlanta tomorrow. Get your reset for the weekend here. Badger men's basketball ranked 21st in the country. They will play at Iowa on Saturday at noon, and you can catch that game on Civic Media on several stations and the app. Coverage begins at 11 a.m. Saturday. Stations in Amory, Wisconsin Rapids, Racine, and Richland Center. Go to civicmedia.us to learn a bit more about that. The 11th ranked Marquette men's basketball team is next playing Saturday afternoon in Omaha against Creighton. The first in the nation Badger women's hockey team plays the Minnesota Gophers on the road Saturday and Sunday. And the Badger men's hockey team will host Penn State Friday and Saturday evenings, and you can catch that on WFHR in Wisconsin Rapids or the app 6:30 on Friday evening, 5:30 on Saturday. So whether you caught it or not, I want to recap our interviews with state superintendent candidates, at least 2 of the 3 that we talked to. And then I saw a lengthy interview that the 3rd candidate, Brittany Kinzer, did with a Madison TV station. And we tried repeatedly, but were not successful in getting Brittany Kinzer to agree to an interview with us. There's a good chance it might have something to do with the fact that every Wednesday morning here at 7:30, we dedicate a segment to public schools and telling you about how great they are, but also how much under threat they are, especially from the explosive growth of the voucher school system. Taxpayers are paying for 2 school systems in this country right now. And Brittany Kinzer said in this particular interview that she is the only candidate in favor of what they call the school choice program. And also wanted to see a return of state testing standards to some national standards that Wisconsin had pegged them to until last year. But it was clear to me from her remarks that when you're talking, as Republicans in the legislature do, only about the standards, only about raising the bar and raising expectations, what I'm hearing is, but we're not going to provide enough additional resources because we're looking to undermine public schools. And so we're going to set the bar higher and higher. And yet, as inflation rises, we're going to do less and less for them. Then there was the incumbent, Jill Underly, who talked with us on Tuesday. And we talked about the standardized tests and the changes that she and the Department of Public Instruction made last year. Yesterday, we talked to one of the other challengers, Jeff Wright from the Sauk Prairie School District, who did not emphasize the testing standards so much as the timing of doing it. So I'll get to that as I recap the interviews that we had and really what's happening with these standardized tests. Now, again, there are many states that align their standardized test scores to a national yardstick called the National Assessment of Educational Progress, NAEP. but you don't have to. And Wisconsin is not the only state that has moved on from those standards to set their own. And it appeared from Dr. Underly's comments that she was concerned that the national standards were essentially being set, again, in a way being set to set up public schools for failure, and that it would be better to measure the progress of Wisconsin students against themselves. How are they doing here in Wisconsin? And not that they're falling short towards somebody else's expectations out in Washington, D.C. And so, as Dr. Underly mentioned, she and educators from around the state came in, looked at the current looked at the old forward test, made recommendations for new questions. If you're changing the questions, then you're also changing the scoring, and she changed the labels on the scoring. Under the NAEP standard, the 4 labels were advanced, proficient, basic, and below basic. And then, the test scores, they're also known as cut scores, determined where those 4 bands would be. Well, under the revised exam, the labels are called advanced, meeting, approaching, and developing. And the scores were adjusted as well. Now, Republicans pounced on this as saying that it was nothing more than DPI and Jill Underly lowering the bar of expectations to make Wisconsin students appear to be doing better than they are if you were comparing them state by state. Dr. Underly said, no, you're making an apples to oranges comparison, and she felt that if this wasn't a political year with a state superintendent election, this probably wouldn't be an issue. You changed the questions, you changed the scores. They simply changed the labels, so it wasn't like you're not being listed as below basic. Developing proficiency, approaching proficiency, meeting proficiency, or advanced. Again, none of this seems reason to politicize the issue, but Republicans in the legislature are always looking for a reason to politicize our public schools, to criticize them, as Robin Vos did, the Assembly Speaker, in his response to the State of the State address, dedicated a good chunk of it to, again, calling our public schools failing. When what is failing is what Speaker Robin Vos and legislative Republicans have been doing now for the 15 years that they've been in control, where state aid has not kept up with inflation. So school districts have to increasingly turn to the local property taxpayers to hike their own taxes just to keep up with current expenses and inflation. Nothing new, nothing extra, just to keep up. Because there are people in Republican circles who would be very happy to strangle public schools, continue to push money toward private, often religious schools, where they can pick and choose their students, and where they can engage in the indoctrination that they are accusing public schools of doing. Because what do I always say? Every assertion is a confession. Now, we had Jeff Wright on, and he's another one of the challengers, and he said it quite bluntly. It wasn't about the test scores, but he said the timing was terrible. He said, we're just coming out of the pandemic, and schools need to know year after year whether the things that they're putting in place to help kids address learning loss from the pandemic were working. And he says, just as we were getting to the 3-year finish line to see if we made progress, to then change that finish line makes it really hard for schools, teachers, and families to know whether or not their child has fully recovered from the pandemic. And I will say that that's a fair point as well. And both can be right, that the test needed to be changed and be made more realistic, set a Wisconsin standard, but also that maybe this was a year or two too early to be making that kind of a change. Regardless, what you get from both Jeff Wright and Dr. Underly is an unwavering commitment to your local community neighborhood public schools all over Wisconsin. And from others, the reason I'm seeing so many county Republican Party posts are pushing for Brittany Kinzer is an unwavering dedication to expanding the voucher and charter school system, which continues to dilute our public schools. Now, these 3 will all face off in 2 weeks. The top 2 candidates will move on to the April 1st general election, and we'll talk more about that between February 18th and April 1st for that key race, along with that race for state Supreme Court on April 1st as well. I'm Pat Kreitlow. You're Up North. We'll be back right after this.
Yep, I just realized it.
It's just like
Secret show.
welcome back from vacation. Sometimes it takes us a little time.
I was going to say that sounded like the perfect intro to a game show or an 80s sitcom.
Oh, totally. Yep.
All right, let's try this again.
Oh, we forgot about Wichita linemen.
I know. It's fine.
Oh.
I didn't want to break the mojo. You guys were...
You can always break the mojo.
It's fine. No worries. We can do it again when you get back.
Secret show.
Secret show.
Is broken. Yes, as Tony writes on YouTube, this is a Rickroll years in the making.
Civic media is just one Rickroll. And we're shutting it down.
That's right. Rick Astley's birthday today, 59. I have trouble processing some birthdays. That is definitely one of them. But
wow, that's full.
I know. Let's tell you what's over on the website, UpNorthNewsWI.com, UpNorthNewsWI.com. Don't forget the WI out there. And as I mentioned, the story that I just talked about with the testing scores, you'll find that right up there on our homepage. I just had it published. And there's a little bit more to my article than what I just told you about. A bit more about the history of standardized testing going back to No Child Left Behind, which, again, when you talk about where you're setting the bar, this one had it set that in 10 years, by the 2013-2014 school year, nearly every student was going to be at 100% proficiency in math and English and other subjects. And gosh, that all sounds really nice. But what are you going to do to help kids get there? And if, people say, well, you just continue drilling them, testing them. Like, sure, why don't you just hand out, a bullwhip while you're at it? There are kids who have needs. There are teacher shortages. There are textbooks that are decades old. There are school systems that have computers, some that don't. Stop talking about the bar being raised if you're not supporting the kids and the teachers who need to work so hard to meet those expectations. So again, more about the history of that you'll find in my article on our website. Also, my article from a few days back of why the Brad Schimmel rape kit backlog is a big part of the Wisconsin Supreme Court election. So again, we do a little history lesson. Brad Schimmel was Attorney General during Scott Walker's second term as governor. And there was a backlog of rape kits that was developing in Wisconsin and other places around the country before Brad Schimmel came into office. But he knew about it. And in the first 2 years of his time as Attorney General, out of a backlog of thousands of rape kits, barely a half a dozen were tested. And there was controversy over, whether Schimmel should have done more to ask for state funding rather than chasing after, national grant funding. Did that cause the delay? And also there's attitudinal barriers about testing rape kits. There's still a lot of doubting the victims. It doesn't really provide a sense of urgency to them, and that enabled that backlog to build up. So again, in the article, we talk about the history of it, Schimmel's behavior about it, what he is saying about the backlog, and what Dane County Judge Susan Crawford is saying about the backlog. And whether it's Schimmel or Crawford, you will have the opportunity to vote for one or the other on April 1st when they face off. However, as I mentioned for the DPI race with Jill Underly, Jeff Wright, Brittany Kinzer, because there are 3 candidates, that requires a primary. And that primary is 12 days away. And in-person absentee voting is now available at your local clerk's office for that primary election. You can head to myvote.wi.gov to learn more. Find out if you're registered. You can put in your name and birth date and find out if you're registered or not. Find out how to get registered. You can put in your address and it will tell you what exactly is going to be on the ballot. So head over to that website. It's the website for the Wisconsin Elections Commission. So it is all the latest information. There's also an article on our website by Christina Laurie. And the headline is, Packers legend Vince Lombardi was the original DEI defender. And Christina writes about how Lombardi famously created a prejudice-free culture in Green Bay. She writes, when Lombardi took over the Packers, they had one black player. He immediately added 12 more and the first black assistant coach in the NFL. Vince Lombardi would not let his players frequent any restaurant, bar, or hotel that denied services to black people. He famously blessed the interracial marriage of defensive lineman Lionel Aldridge and his wife Vicky. And he was one of the first coaches in the NFL to offer opportunities to black players who had previously been sent to the startup AFL, which we now know as the AFC. Lombardi's daughter, Susan, said, "My father was way ahead of his time. He had been discriminated against as a dark-skinned Italian American when he was younger. He felt passed up for coaching jobs that he deserved. He felt the pain of discrimination. And so he raised his family to accept everybody, no matter what color they were or whatever their sexual orientation was." And that's a part of our history that I know is not being taught much anymore. I mean, the closest you come is if you're watching The Godfather Part 2. Do you see the explicit discrimination against Italian Americans because they weren't considered truly white for their more olive complexion? We had discrimination against the Irish. We had discrimination against all kinds of groups who now have grandchildren, great-grandchildren, great-great-grandchildren who are campaigning against DEI. And when Christina put this story up on Facebook, the comment section blew up with people that really caused me to wonder how much more work we have to do to explain the notion of providing opportunity for all. Not equal outcomes, but at least equal opportunity. A lot of the comments from people were just ugly, saying, oh, Lombardi had nothing to do with DEI. He just put the best players out there. Lombardi was all about the best players, and that's exactly how it should be. And thankfully, there are other commenters out there saying, you're missing the point. Yeah, of course, we'd all like for the very best of anybody to get an opportunity. It's that they didn't get an opportunity. Before Vince Lombardi came along, yeah, you could be the best. But if your skin was dark, you weren't getting on that team. You weren't getting in that restaurant. You weren't getting on that train. DEI programs help provide opportunities for groups that continue to be underserved to this day. One of our first big series back in 2020, when we first started, was talking all about the systemic racism that still exists. It was a 3-part series in education and in healthcare and in the courts. And it's as true today as it ever was. We have opportunities to help other communities to catch up, but not if we're going to have these ugly knee-jerk reactions to pioneers like Vince Lombardi. 2 of our newest legislators are coming up next. You're Up North.
Hands keep shaking, and you know, it will take a strong man.
Thank you, Tony. Oh, and thank you for that, too. Good morning, Kristin.
Well, good morning, Mr. Cradlow. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Greetings from Cassie.
I was going to say, are you sure you're doing okay out there? I mean, I saw who they stuck you with, and
Listen, You know as well as I got the number one draft choice out there, or the best free agent on the market.
My God, did you ever? I was
Yeah.
thrilled to hear she was back in the building. So
Yeah,
give her,
me too. I will.
give her an extra hug from me. How's Christian today?
Great.
There
I
you
got
are.
to listen to Up North News live.
Well, without having to do a whole different segment, you get to. This is now just more about what you're doing, not just what the whole group is doing. So, how you liking it so far?
I haven't mastered my answer to that question yet.
That's all right.
Have you, Kristin?
I have. It's both outstanding and astounding.
Ooh, I like that.
Oh, that's
okay.
really that's good. That's very
Yeah.
positive.
Mm.
I like to also mention like the darkness mixed in with the positive, and then people are confused by my answer. I need to make it more concise.
That's where the astounding comes in. Let it go anywhere it needs to go.
Yep.
Yeah, that's good.
Astounding describes a lot of things. Jaw dropping, you name it.
Unbelievable. That's another good one. Unbelievable.
Yep. That's exactly right. All right. Well, so this will be pretty standard, with the only exception being that, we will get into the LGBTQ caucus and talk about what, the ongoing attacks, the first bills that have been introduced, what's happening with the Trump administration, but then also look for, anything where you're being proactive on any legislation that you'd like to see done or things that are added to the state budget. But then we'll get back to what we're doing every Thursday, and that's just impressions on the job so far. What committees you're on, what things would you like to see done, what'd you think about state of the state, things like that. So just getting
All that
listeners
in
a chance to know.
15 minutes?
All that in 15 little minutes. So no filibustering, Senator.
I won't do it.
That's
I won't do
okay.
it.
I never miss the chance to explain senitude to the listeners and to others, that we how playful we are with our assembly friends out there.
You must.
Especially Jeff Smith, having moved from the assembly to the Senate, that I can just razz him ceaselessly. Remember
He's
when you
such a
thought,
good guy.
remember you thought I was such a big deal? Well, now you're a big deal. So no,
There's
he's
nothing
the best.
he hates more than being referred to as a big deal too.
I know. That's why I do it all the time. He's awesome.
He's a good guy.
All right, we got about a minute 15. I'm going to tuck you in the waiting room for the next minute or so you can make a little noise, and I'll pop you back out as we get going.
Sounds good.
Natalie Cole was born this day in 1950. I just love the piano on this. This was her debut hit in the spring of 1975. And I learned last night that on the piano was Marvin Yancey, the songwriter of This Will Be. This helped Natalie Cole become the Grammy winner for Best New Artist back in 1975. And she and Marvin Yancey were married for a short time as well. This is Up North News Radio on the Civic Media Radio Network on this Thursday morning, February 6th. And as you know, on all of our Thursdays so far this session of the new legislative session, we have been talking to new legislators, because there's a bunch of them, because the maps were fair for the first time in a decade. So you had retirements, you had open seats, you had incumbents defeated, and a whole lot of new faces. And they're new faces in the Capitol. They are not new faces necessarily to Up North News Radio, because we talk to them as candidates or in other capacities. For Christian Phelps, it was his work with public education with the Wisconsin Public Education Network. And let me see, for State Senator Kristin Dassler-Alfheim, as Tony writes in from Ashland, State Senator Alfheim, formerly of Rational Revolution fame? Yeah, it would be that one. Senator, Representative, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Pat. Good morning, everybody. Great to be on.
How are you doing, Christian?
Great to see you.
Yeah, you as well. Oh, my goodness, look at that. We got to fix Kristin's title over here. We still got her listed as a candidate. I'll take care of that. Kristin, what's it been like so far as a new legislator?
My favorite words are outstanding and astounding. Outstanding in the amount of information you get to gather. I mean, truly, I try to keep up on things, but I don't think people realize how little we actually know about the full issues. And so I enjoy gathering the rest of the story, and astounding as to how much manufactured dysfunction exists and how most people understand that it's there and wish that it weren't. And still here we are.
But the learning curve is somewhat steep, but it's also exciting, isn't it?
It is. I mean, truly, every day. I don't know that people understand how our schedules look. It is every day. I'm down here 2 nights a week, and every hour on the hour, in some cases every 15 minutes, there is someone coming in to teach me about something, whether it's the how Wisconsin works, energy, DNR, education, or it's an issue that's important to them, kids in robotics. It is a ridiculously full calendar of learning, which I find fascinating, and I love it, and I love the people.
Oh gosh, I loved it so much. But again, you had some of us were just nerds that way, and you just had a whole bunch of new stuff to soak up. Christian, you work in education, so you're used to new classes and everything. What was your impression being a new legislator?
Yeah, I have a very similar impression, and I think that the feeling that I've had is just this sort of sense of responsibility that sets in, because you're not taking new classes in a theoretical way. I mean, you alluded to education there. You're taking in a lot of information, like the senator said, and all of it equally important. But it's never really lost on you, and maybe more so when you're brand new, that this information is being delivered to you because people are asking for you to improve their lives in Wisconsin, and that the impact of what you do with the information that you're taking in, and how you take it forward in your work is actually going to have an impact. And so that sense of responsibility is kind of that's definitely the number one feeling so far.
Mm-hmm. Well, and while you want to make an impact, and while you want to serve, you knew long before taking office that other people, use this office for power trips and to rule, and for ideological sentiments that are not in line with the mainstream of Wisconsin values. To that end, I noticed quite happily the press release from Senator Mark Spreitzer noting that the legislature's LGBTQ caucus kicked off its season with more than double the membership of the previous legislative session. And Representative Phelps, you are a vice chair of the committee, and Senator Alfheim is a member of that committee as well. Can you tell us a little bit about what that means, that the LGBTQ caucus is the size that it is, and what it might mean going forward in the legislature? Senator, we'll start with you.
Well, first, again, DEI, right? It's the battle that's going on. And I will tell you that it was amazing to me during the campaign, and now that I'm here, how many messages I get from young people, college kids, high school kids, parents of LGBT and trans, that say, thank you for seeing us. Thank you for helping us to just be part of this community without scrutiny. It's amazing. DEI is all about helping people find familiarity. and find comfort in becoming themselves, and that allows them to go on and be better and bigger versions for our community as a whole. So the idea that there's such an attack against it is disappointing. That room being full of legislators willing to stand up and say, come on, we do have issues in this country. These kids are not the ones causing that. So it's disheartening that it's necessary, and it's heartwarming that we're all there, and the people out there that are need us to step up and stand in the way of chaos, we're there for them, and they see it, and it means something to them.
So what does it mean, Kristin, about one of the first bills? And we were talking about this last hour with Joe Zepecki, and I intentionally put a rather mocking tone on it. The bill that was circulated saying, oh, you guys, there's just so many flags now. There's just so many holidays that why don't we not put some of these other flags up anymore, knowing full well they're targeting the pride flag. And yet, again, that's one of the first bills introduced. You're a brand new legislator. What was your reaction?
Sorry, I'm having a little bit of a connectivity issue, but the question is about the introduction of the bill around
That's
which
correct.
flags are allowed. Yes,
That's right. Yep.
My impression of it is that we aren't surprised because, unfortunately, so far this session, at least on the assembly side, we've seen a lot of the behavior from the majority Republican Party that actually looks exactly the same way as how they were behaving before. We got fairer maps, which does not reflect the level of democracy that Wisconsin voters have asked from us. And that kind of behavior is introducing bills that I consider to be distractions from the agenda that they're really trying to push, which, as you know, from my background, includes things like undermining public schools and not helping the working and middle classes of Wisconsin in a meaningful way. But the real problem, from my perspective and from the LGBTQ caucus's perspective, is that simply introducing bills like this sends a harmful message, particularly to adolescents and young people who are coming to know their identities. And so we find it very important, as this larger caucus with 12 members right now, that Kristin and I are both a part of, to show those young people that there are legislators in the Capitol that are actually fighting for them, that we are not going to let messages that say your identity and pride in your identity is now going to be policed by legislators. We want to put forward a counter message to that says that young people who are LGBTQ or might be LGBTQ and are trying to get, or any identity and getting to know themselves, also have fighters and allies in that building.
So along with the allies and along with plain defense, there will also be, as the statement notes from the caucus, introducing visionary legislation that will move our state forward. And that's where I want to pivot to the state budget here, because, there are things that you're going to want to get done. And Governor Evers is going to spell that out more directly in 2 weeks as part of his state budget address. But we heard the State of the State address, Senator. And so give me your impression of what things you heard from the governor, things that you would really like to see accomplished. I know they'd be an uphill fight, but maybe there are some things where bipartisanship could put some new ideas in the budget.
Yeah, I mean, there is bipartisanship, and oftentimes our Republican friends will brag about it. The reality is that the only bipartisanship comes on bills that are authored by Republicans, because our bills don't even get a hearing. And that's the reality. So what I love about what the governor said is it's the year of the kid. I mean, come on. Who can argue with it's the year of the kid? Can we make sure they're fed, they're educated, they're healthy, and they're housed? If we do that, we actually will give these kids a chance to find success in our communities, which is what we want. It is both a social and a fiscal issue to give children, all children, the opportunity to find success in life. And if we don't, if we continue to fail at that, which we are, we continue to fail at that, we will continue to have social issues beyond that, which are costing us far more money. So I believe in the governor's vision. I get to spend time with the governor. He is a good, humble man who is just trying to do good, who desperately wants the legislature to work together, which I believe the body does want to work together. I believe there are Republicans that want to work together. but there are dials that have been turned by the majority that aren't allowing it to happen. Unless something's going to be unanimous on the floor, they're not going to bring it to the floor. We have bills. We have bills out there. I've talked to both sides of the organization, Republicans and Democrats, that probably 85% of the body, and I'm talking red, blue, House and Senate, all agree we should pass, and the bill will not come to the floor because that's the tools that have been, again, manufactured by the leadership to keep it from happening. Even the Republicans are getting mad. Senator Phelps made a statement the other day. I think that was impressive. I actually went to a conservative legislative breakfast the other day. I was the one Democrat. There were 4 Republicans, and this is a deep red group coalition. And 2 of the 4 points that they had on slides to answer questions, I actually got to agree with because they're mad that their issues are not getting a chance on the floor. Now, their issues are not something I enjoy. They are deep right issues, but they're mad at their own leadership because, in essence, democracy is not working. We are supposed to be able to talk about the issues of the people and vote on them, and then the majority will take us. Not preconditioned, it's going to pass or else we won't talk about it.
Kristin, tell us, you're on the phone now, and thanks for sticking with us and being patient, but tell us some of your priorities for the budget and beyond for this session.
Yeah, thanks, Pat. So I'm actually already in Madison today, and because we have our first Assembly Education Committee hearing today. And I was hearing over and over in an Assembly district that includes a very good chunk of the city of Eau Claire and a very good chunk of the rural area around Eau Claire, that public education funding was probably one of the most unifying priorities across political identities and both urban and rural residents of the 93rd. And so I'm hoping that we can use this session to really hone in on what I believe is the most responsible definition of bipartisanship, which is what has bipartisan support in our actual communities, because I find that the divide is much broader and much deeper inside the Capitol than it is in our actual districts. And when school districts like Osseo Fairchild that are very rural in my district and Menominee and Eau Claire have all had to go to operating referenda in the last year, that tells voters that they are in an untenable situation and they are looking for legislators that are going to invest state resources in the next generation so that they can keep their property taxes down and set everybody up for success moving forward. So I want to not only work on a budget that does that, but to work on a narrative that puts forward a real solution, because we haven't really heard one from the Capitol in so long.
State Assembly Representative Kristin Phelps from Eau Claire, Senator Kristin Dassler-Alfheim from Appleton. Thank you both very much. Appreciate your time. I know you're very busy learning the ropes and everything, but we really like getting to know what your priorities are and looking forward to checking in with you throughout the session.
Thanks, Pat.
All right. Kristin, thank you as well. You guys have a great day. Thanks for coming in today. When we come back, we will talk to Luke Mathers, I believe, the handsome and capable Luke Mathers, as I get set to, put on my beach gear and hit the road. He'll tell us what else to expect across the Civic Media Radio Network, which you can learn more about by heading over to civicmedia.us and learn about shows and learn about podcasts as well. Because look, if while I'm gone, if you're like, oh, what did Pat say about that other thing? You can go back on the website and look. Or you can get used to Bach and the Doc, because they're here next week, and that's going to be a lot of fun. Back after this, you're up north.
Made me believe you've got more frills to spare. Oh, this will be an everlasting love. Oh, yes, it will die.
Yeah, I couldn't pull it off going, would you like more of me? Are you going to miss me? Do you want more me?
Why don't you want more of me?
You can
Secret show.
Podcast me. Get more.
That's why I tell people, go to the website, go to your favorite podcast distribution center of choice, subscribe to the podcast, and then also give a 5-star review, because that actually helps as well.
Yeah. I wonder if Luke will come in today.
I'll bet you he'll be here. We can always count on Luke.
Oh, yeah. He's got to talk about the trade.
I know. we can ask him if it's surprising, because he'd be able to. Because I feel like yeah, Luke and they have the knowledge that like they know things. They're people who know things.
Tony, self-promote, bro.
Self-promote, brah.
Bruh.
You gotta get out there. No one's gonna push you if you don't push yourself, bro. Man, never skip leg day. I don't know what that means.
Oh, look who's. I always like how he's setting it up.
Oh,
It
I gotta
looks
do
like it's
this.
Such serious
Hello, there we are.
work. There we go.
And then he's gonna be like, and then once he's like, we're in, and then
and then the puppy comes up and messes with the keyboard.
Yellow puppers. For those who don't know what's going on, this is the secret show.
There's the Bucks hat.
Mic check 1 2.
There it is. All right, nice.
Wow, that's a handsome and capable audio there.
The dogs did not. You guys talk about me way too much for me being unprompted. Okay, you guys just
because we like you.
Yes.
Kelsey's like, did you text in? And I was like, no, I haven't said anything.
You're part of the
my name's been
family.
invoked so many times.
All right, here we go.
Just to be clear, one more time, we'll play a little Bob Marley because I'm going to go engage in some, well, not primal scream therapy, but primal beach therapy, I think is needed. And I was very happy that Greg got his time in Memphis and Kristin had her time away. And now it's time for me to just unplug. And that's what I do. But before I do, I have to turn to the handsome and capable Luke Mathers to tell us more about, what else is happening around civic media world and the Milwaukee Bucks. What are you holding there, Mr. Mathers?
I don't have a tiki mug to see you off with, but I do have a coffee mug to say
yes.
Safe travels to you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Brightlow.
Thank you. Chris Middleton trade. What do you think?
It's tough. It's tough. It's been a tough couple of I was gonna say days, but this is like literally just happening. So it's been a day. I had a feeling this was coming, and I'm not thrilled with who we got in return. I think Kyle Kuzma could contribute to the team in a more productive way, but his accuracy, his ability to be clutch down the stretch is nothing, I think, compared to what Chris had when he was at his peak. But then again, Chris is not at his peak. Added on top of it, I feel bad that Chris is now going from the Bucks to like the worst,
lowly Wizards,
the worst team.
They're so bad.
And Chris has been a staple of the Milwaukee Bucks team for the last 11, 12 years now. And he was part of the worst Bucks team in franchise history, in league history, that Bucks team in 2012 to 2013. And he came to us from the Pistons, which is not having the greatest time either. So like now he's kind of cast to Washington, and I feel for Chris. But at the same time, I think that if this gamble allows the Bucks to get back to the finals and win another championship for Giannis, it will be worth it. If anything short of that happens, I fear that it wasn't worth it.
Greg, doesn't this have a lot of similarities to some of the Brewers players you lose, where it's like, we're just getting attached to them, but it's a business.
You see, the difference is, I think, and correct me, Luke, if I'm wrong, but I feel like when there is opportunity to keep a player, and money is going to be involved, as a Bucks fan, you can say, well, the Bucks might spend the money on them. Whereas as a Brewers fan, we know it's not happening. The moment, perfect example, Mike Moustakas. There was no way the Brewers were ever going to lay down $43.1 million to keep Mike Moustakas. It was like, see you later, enjoy the Nationals and the Cincinnati Reds or whomever you're going to. But I feel like the Bucks definitely have an attitude of investment in players to keep the team strong. Whereas the Brewers are like, would you like a tote bag on your way out? There's a tote bag. Take a tote bag.
And Luke properly switches hats mid-sentence from Bucks to his Brewers cap now.
Yes, but that was the case, I think, for the beginning of this Giannis era. But now with new ownership and Jimmy Haslam as part of the ownership team of the Milwaukee Bucks, I fear, Greg, that will not. Oh, sorry, we're talking Bucks again. I
Yeah,
fear
put the Bucks hat on. Bucks, there you go.
that is going to be maybe not the case going forward. And so it's going to be interesting to see some of these like the chemistry between Chris and Giannis is something that you can't replicate. And so I think the question truly came down to availability and health when it came to Middleton being in the lineup. And so that's where this came into play. It's going to be interesting to see the Bucks still making a couple of moves. We added a center as well last night. So I don't know if they're done yet before the trade deadline, but it's going to be interesting to see leading up to today, I believe 1 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Central. I forget the exact hard cutoff, but there's been a lot of things to keep an eye on this week.
Did you hear us this morning saying that we would listen to a Bucks podcast?
Yeah, I got a new programming
and Dan
job,
Schaefer.
I got to be scheduled for that now, too.
You and Schaefer and Joe Zepecki. I would listen to that.
That was not the putting something on your plate, Luke. That was us saying we would love to. Is a compliment, my friend.
Yes, you don't have to do it. Don't put
I don't
it
know
on your
if I know the
list.
Bucks well enough to be able to do pull something like that. off.
Disagree.
That's a bunch of bull puck.
Did you not listen to yourself the past 3 minutes here? You are more than set. What else would you like to tell us about across civic media world before I skip town?
Well, yeah, we're going to have some excellent civic media mornings coming up in your absence. Bach in the dock. I don't think I have to tease any fun there. Greg's got it covered.
Monday through Thursday of next week.
Thursday, Mr. Alba, and then 2 Fridays.
Todd Alba next tomorrow, and then the next Friday, which will be Valentine's Day. So I don't get to talk to you about the Super Bowl. I don't get to talk to you about Valentine's Day. So I better get it out of the way. First, Luke.
We'll talk about it on the beach. Don't worry.
No. You got
adjoining rooms.
Well, Tony's putting up on YouTube. Luke doesn't have to say goodbye. He'll be there with coordinated outfits, I believe. How did this stowaway thing catch legs all of a sudden? Yikes.
I don't know, Pat. We couldn't hide it well enough, I guess.
The very capable and handsome cabana helper, Luke Mathers.
I would think
No. Pool boys are Todd's thing, okay? We cannot encroach.
Yes.
I didn't want to say anything.
Mm-hmm. All right. Super Bowl, quick.
I'm hoping for an Eagles win, but I'm just cheering for the Badgers. Leo Chanel and Zach Bond.
Okay. And Greg?
Yeah.
What food are you most looking forward to enjoying during the Super Bowl?
If I'm going somewhere, I'm going to bring my chili dip. Bring chili dip, baby. I was telling Jane I have to make 2 of them because the first one goes in about 10 minutes. So you got to have a backup chili dip. So people can be like, "Oh, what's this about?" I'm like, "Don't worry, I brought backup."
Perfect.
The encore chili dip. All right,
exactly.
Greg is prepared for it. That is a Super Bowl connoisseur right there.
Yep. Thank you, gentlemen, very much. We'll see you on the other side.
Vacation, Pat. Enjoy.
Thank you very much. And again, Todd Alba tomorrow morning. Thanks to today's guests, and thanks to you for being here. Up North News is the Wisconsin outlet for Courier, a pro-democracy news network. I'm Pat Kreitlow. Thank you so much. Enjoy the next week or so. And when I get back from the beach, I'll see you back here up north. Ba-dum, ba-dum, bump. Secret show.